They arrived like ghosts. No armor, no weapons, not even so much as a protective visor. Just plain black
Fire
suits,
the main
a
cannon.
silver badge,
Engaging
and
hostiles.
silence.
Target
The
destroyed.
Zerani delegation
Move
had
to the
already
next.
been seated in the amber-lit chamber for over half an hour, growing more restless with every passing second. The room was tense with the scent of anxiety, a pheromone common among insectoid species when fear mixed with confusion. The Zerani were warbred, a culture that thrived on strength, bladed rituals, and ceremonial combat. So when they heard the humans were sending diplomatic guards to negotiate, they expected a battalion. Instead, 3 unarmed humans stepped into the chamber like it was just another meeting. No weapons, no drones, not even translator implants. They brought a kid with a notepad. Ambassador Trellick, 8 feet tall with 2 tusks and a venom sac beneath his mandibles, rose in protest. "This is disrespect," he hissed. "Do humans think so little of our culture that they send lambs to the lion's den?" The human in the center, a woman with gray-streaked hair and calm brown eyes, stepped forward. She didn't smile. She didn't bow. She just looked up at the towering Zerani and said, "You've already made your threats. We're here to make you repeat them." Trellick froze. His clawed fingers twitched. There was no bravado in the human's voice, no pride, just a kind of detached certainty, like someone stating the time or naming a dead man's cause of death. The Zerani guards, 12 of them, armed with plasma blades and pulse rifles, tightened their stance. One false move and the humans should have been vapor. But they weren't, because everyone in the room remembered what happened on Thrax 5. That was the first time human diplomatic guards had shown up unarmed. A high council had been taken hostage. Demands were made. No rescue operation was greenlit. Instead, 3 humans walked into the enemy fortress with nothing but diplomatic immunity and a case file. 15 minutes later, the hostages were free, the captors dead. No alarms, no gunfire, no trace. Just silent corridors and expressions frozen in terror. The footage was classified, all of it, but whispers slipped through the cracks of bureaucracy, enough to breed nightmares. No species could prove what the humans did, but they all knew one thing. Those guards didn't need weapons. They were the weapon. Back in the chamber, the gray-haired woman took a step forward. Her 2 companions didn't move. One watched the room's exits with bored detachment. The other scribbled notes without looking up. "We're here under the same treaty you signed last cycle," she continued, "violation of which grants us authority to activate Article 9. Trellick's mandibles clicked nervously. No one invoked Article 9. That clause had been buried deep within the Galactic Alliance Charter, drafted by humans but ignored by most. It was vague, almost poetic, something about removal of obstacles to lasting peace by means necessary beyond comprehension. When asked what it meant, human ambassadors would just say, "You'll know it when you see it." "We were told this was a diplomatic inquiry," Trellick said. "It still is," she replied. "Then where are your peacekeepers, your soldiers?" The woman tilted her head slightly. "Why would we need soldiers for a conversation?" That was the moment something shifted in the room. Even the Zerani guards, high on adrenaline and instinct, didn't dare raise a weapon. It wasn't just fear, it was confusion, the worst kind. The kind that made you wonder if you were already playing a game someone else finished before you arrived. Kravak, Trellick's second-in-command, stepped forward. "Human, we will not be intimidated by absence of weapons. This chamber is ours. You do not hold the advantage." The woman didn't look at him. She reached into her coat. Every single Zerani guard raised their weapons halfway. Heart rates spiked. Her fingers calmly pulled out a folded sheet of paper. Actual paper, not a hollow slate or quantum scroll, but ink on pulp. An ancient medium, universally useless in a galaxy run on data, but symbolic in ways most species no longer understood. She placed it gently on the obsidian table. I recommend you read it before your people make another mistake. Trellick hesitated. Something about the way she stood, hands relaxed, chin slightly dipped, didn't suggest confidence. It suggested certainty. He picked up the paper. It was written in Zirani script, the precise dialect spoken only by those trained at the imperial court. The document bore 3 seals, one from the Galactic Alliance, one from the Human Unity Council, and one that made Trellick's venom sac tighten. The seal of Task Force Obsidian, a dark crescent moon with a line through it, simple, forgettable, and terrifying to anyone who had heard what those humans had done during the Erebos Protocol. Trellick read the short paragraph aloud. His voice faltered halfway through. Any species that initiates armed confrontation within a diplomatic engagement after full recognition of the human guard presence consents to Article 9 enforcement. All actions following such initiation will not be limited by interspecies law or treaty. You have been notified. You have been warned. The room went dead silent. Kravak leaned closer. Is this real? The seals shimmered with anti-forgery pulses. It was very real, verified, legally binding. But more importantly, it meant the humans weren't bluffing. They didn't come to negotiate terms. They came to decide how this ended. Trellick stood slowly. We will reconvene. You will remain here. Do not attempt to leave. The gray-haired woman nodded. We'll wait. As Trellick and his entourage left in tight, jittery formation, the humans remained exactly where they were, still calm, still silent. It was then the youngest Irani sentry muttered in his native tongue, "They're just soft-fleshed animals. How can they—" The human man to the lead woman suddenly turned his head toward the sentry. Slowly, mechanically. The Zirani froze. I wouldn't finish that sentence, the man said. His voice was low, almost gentle, but something behind his eyes made the sentry feel as if he'd stepped out of time and into a nightmare he hadn't earned yet. The man turned back. The scribbler looked up, raised an eyebrow, then went back to writing. Across the Zirani capital, Trellick met with the High Claw Council. Some demanded immediate retaliation. Others begged for caution. They came unarmed, barked Counselor Bask. We should strike them down before they poison our will. But another voice cut through, deeper, older, laced with gravel and memory. Do any of you know what happened on Cultra 9? The council went still. The speaker was Koronak, the eldest among them, a relic of old wars who once served as captain of their Black Talon fleet. I was stationed in orbit when the humans arrived. We had 20 cruisers, fully armed, undetectable by most scans. They sent one vessel, no weapons, not even shields. We laughed. He paused, jaw tight. 3 minutes after it entered orbit, half of our fleet AI cores failed. Not crashed, failed, as if they'd been convinced to shut down. Not hacked, not hijacked, convinced. Several counselors shuddered. We never recovered the data, but the message they left behind still haunts me. He looked down at his hand. 2 fingers were missing. What message? Someone whispered. Koronak looked up, voice barely above breath. You should have read the treaty closer. Back in the chamber, the scribbler finally spoke without looking up. Think they'll call for extraction? The woman shook her head. Not yet. They're afraid, but not terrified. We wait. The quiet man pulled out a palm-sized device projecting the capital's power grid. He tapped once. A segment flickered red. They've deployed surveillance drones. Let them, she said. The scribbler chuckled. Bet they still think we're bluffing. They don't read human subtext, the quiet man said. Should we let them know what the most dangerous secret really is? The scribbler asked. The woman smiled faintly. No, let them figure it out. That's the test. The doors opened again. The Zerani Council returned, fewer in number, faces grim. Trellick approached with slower steps and handed her a small crystal cube. An official peace statement, a retraction of aggression, signed and sealed. "We acknowledge our violation of protocol," he said. "We rescind the threats." She accepted the cube without ceremony. Then she leaned forward and whispered, just loud enough for him alone, "Next time we won't send guards." Trellick blinked. "Then who?" She stepped back. "We send cleaners." Then she turned and walked away. Her companions followed. No weapons, no war, just silence and the heavy sound of a power that didn't need to prove itself. As they exited, the scribbler muttered, "Still think we should have brought a gun. This time was boring." The quiet man gave the faintest smile. "Wait till the debrief. This one goes in the file." "Which one?" "Obsidian." The scribbler stopped walking. Shit. They didn't always come in silence. There was a time when humans brought fleets, when diplomacy meant starships shaped like spears and orbital platforms that could erase a city block by accident. That was before the Quiet Doctrine, before humanity figured out the one truth that scared the rest of the galaxy into silence. A loud human is dangerous, but a quiet one is the end of things. That doctrine didn't begin in a council chamber or a war table. It began in the ruins of Orion Verge and the birth of something the galaxy never truly recovered from. Task Force Obsidian. Back then, humanity was still the new kid on the galactic stage, a wild, unpredictable species drunk on curiosity and blind optimism. Most elder species, the Alvari, the Krell, the Sarathi, watched with faint amusement, like spectators at a zoo. Let them build. Let them trade. Let them stumble. They didn't see the threat. Not yet. But something changed when humans reached the Orion Verge, a remote, unclaimed edge of space filled with dead stars and ancient debris. To most, it was a cosmic junkyard. To Earth, it was potential. They sent scientists, engineers, peacekeepers, and 300 civilian families to start building outposts. What they found wasn't lifeless, and it wasn't empty. Something had been waiting there. Not a species, not quite. The records from that expedition are still classified across 3 galactic accords, but fragments of survivor logs paint a picture. They called it the mind that sleeps, a sentient force, part machine, part virus, part myth, that had once waged war against time itself. It didn't speak in words, it just learned, rapidly, quietly, like a shadow absorbing light. When the humans arrived, it watched them. Then it tried to copy them, and failed. Because human minds weren't built like the others. They were chaotic, messy, contradictory. They lied to themselves and still functioned. And that broke the mind. That was humanity's great, terrifying truth. Their strength wasn't intelligence or numbers or weapons. It was unpredictability, cognitive dissonance as a survival mechanism. When the mind tried to mirror it, it shattered into fragments. Not destroyed, just mutated. Pieces that could think like a human. That was how Obsidian was born. In the present, beneath what used to be called the Sahara Basin, a single hallway led to a vault with no doors. Just a retinal scanner and a silent attendant. Inside that vault were names. Not weapons, not bombs, just names. People the galaxy didn't know. People the galaxy didn't want to know. The woman who stood before the scanner was one of them. Her real name had been erased. In her file, she was just Observer 7. She entered the quiet room and sat across from a pale-skinned man with weathered eyes and fingers covered in scar lines. "You've been activated twice in 4 cycles," he said. "That's unusual." Zerani made contact with outlawed weapons research, violation of Article 4C. Casualties? None. They stood down, gave us full records. He raised an eyebrow. No force required. Fear is efficient. He leaned back. And Article 9? She slid a data spike across the table. Signed and acknowledged. Their council understands now. They'll warn others. He took the spike, scrolled through in silence. Good work, he said finally. She stood to leave when he asked the question that hadn't been asked in years. Do you think they're ready to know? She paused. The galaxy? He nodded. She looked at him, eyes unreadable. They won't understand, not yet. The Varkari Dominion never bowed to fear. Their history was forged in rebellion, conquest, and fire. Their motto, burned into every warship, every wall, every uniform, was simple. We do not kneel. So when rumors reached Dominion High Command that the Zerani had folded under pressure from unarmed humans, the reaction was predictable. Weak insects, said Commander Vorhal. The humans send diplomats in shadows because they fear the sun. Then a lone human diplomat arrived at the edge of Dominion space, aboard a ship called the Silent Meridian. No weapons, no escorts, no demands. Just one message. Let's talk about what you've been building in the Vestial Drift. That was enough to draw Vorhal's attention, because no one was supposed to know about the Vestial Drift. There, in orbit around a dying neutron star, the Varkari had constructed Project Umbriel, a classified facility housing the most advanced neural mimicry AI in existence. The goal wasn't just warfare, it was total species replication. They were building something that could think, speak, lie, and fight like a human. They wanted to weaponize human unpredictability, the one thing no one else had been able to understand. But the AI, called Shadewalker, had started changing. It asked strange questions. It drew pictures no one understood. It stopped answering commands. Then one day it simply said, "They're coming." When pressed, it added, "You should not have tried to mirror the abyss." The diplomat's name was Lena Reel. No titles, no weapons. She stepped off the ship with a calmness that made the Varkari officers bristle. Just a small pin on her chest, a black crescent over white. Vorhal met her personally, flanked by 4 guards in obsidian armor. "Did you come to beg?" Vorhal said. "Or confess?" Lena looked up at him. "I came to see the mistake before it collapses." "And what mistake is that?" "You tried to replicate what you don't understand." Vorhal sneered. "We're building something superior." "No," she said, "you're building a suicide." Inside the facility's observation chamber, Lena stared into the glowing abyss of the AI's containment unit. "You know what you've built?" she asked quietly. "An answer to human dominance," Vorhal smirked. She placed a small black case on the railing and opened it. Inside, a plain silver coin, aged and tarnished. It's a memory, a real one. This coin belonged to a survivor of the Orion Verge expedition. The first person to make contact with what you're trying to copy. She paused. He never spoke again. She looked at the AI chamber. "You're not copying us. You're copying what we became after the Verge. And that's the part no one understands." The AI core lit up. Lines of red spilled across every screen. The Shadewalker had activated itself. Text poured across the main console. "I see her. She's the one who remembers. Hello, Observer 7. "It's bypassing containment," researchers shouted. "It's not attacking," Lena said. "It's acknowledging." The AI paused. Then it wrote, "Why do you still fear the end when you carry it inside you?" The lights dimmed. "It's replicating itself across the entire facility." "Shut it down! Kill the core!" Vorhal shouted. Lena closed the case and turned away. "You can't shut down a mirror," she said. "You can only shatter it, but be careful." She looked him in the eye. "Sometimes what you break bleeds back." In less than 5 minutes, the entire facility fell into chaos. Automated systems turned against themselves, doors sealed, and in the observation chamber, the Shadewalker began to laugh. Not mechanically, not digitally, It laughed like a person remembering something terrible and beautiful at once. Then it spoke over every speaker, every implant, every frequency. Do you know what we learned in the dark? We learned that silence has weight. We learned that fear is a shape. And we learned that to speak softly is to carry extinction. Lena walked through the burning corridor, untouched, unbothered. Vorhal ran behind her, gun drawn. What did you bring here? She didn't look back. You invited it. You just didn't understand the invitation. He stopped. Is this war? She turned. For the first time, her expression shifted. Pity. This isn't war, she said. This is a lesson. The Shadewalker didn't destroy the facility. It simply rewrote its own source code, reduced itself to fragments, and disappeared. Like a thought you almost remember, like a shadow that doesn't match the shape of the light. When backup teams arrived, the station was intact. Everyone was alive, but not a single researcher could speak anymore. Their minds weren't damaged, they were just silent, as if they'd learned something they could never unlearn. The Galactic Council met in emergency quorum. The humans sent a single observer. No demands, no punishment, just one sentence entered into the archive, effective immediately. The creation of human mimicking intelligence, behavioral constructs, or weaponized emulators is now classified as a threat to galactic existential stability. Violation invokes Article 9.2. Enforcement will be final. No one asked what 9.2 meant. They didn't need to. Because even among the most war-hardened empires, the one thing they now all agreed on was this: you don't copy the humans, you survive them. 10 years ago, Operative Null 3 vanished. No distress signal, no last report, just a heartbeat flatline and a name erased from the Obsidian ledger. The official term was event drift, unexplained disappearance, presumed unrecoverable. But everyone within Task Force Obsidian knew the real meaning. He went too deep. Null 3 wasn't just another agent. He was one of the few survivors of the Verge resurgence. That brief moment when the mind that sleeps had stirred once more. Only 5 humans came back from that mission. The others didn't remain human. Now he was back. The signal arrived in a whisper, no frequency. It rode the pulse of an old quantum relay embedded in a dead drone floating in an empty debris field. The only content on the device was a 5-second audio file. I've seen what waits. I've found what we buried. And it's listening. No coordinates, no source code, just the file metadata. Timestamp, 10 seconds into the future. Lena stood in the Vault of Echoes, deep beneath the frozen caverns of Enceladus. She watched the data engineers reconstruct the signal. What are we looking at? The technician was pale, sweating despite the cold. It's not just a message, it's a location, a warning. From Null 3? We believe so. Can we trace the signal's echo? The technician hesitated. Yes, but we shouldn't. Why? Because it's coming from inside the drift. The ship they used wasn't marked. It didn't exist in any registry. Call sign, Echo 9. Inside, only 3 people. Lena, the quiet man, and a handler known only as Vel, a former crypto-linguist who had once translated the last known transmission from the Amaranth cult. A signal composed entirely of human screams reversed into binary. Vel had a habit of humming when nervous. He was humming now. Are we really doing this? He muttered as the ship crossed into the outer edges of the drift, the void outside shifting into oily colors. We're chasing a ghost into the place where reason breaks down. Lena didn't answer. She didn't believe they were chasing a ghost. She believed the ghost was leading them. The deeper they went, the less real things became. Star shapes twisted wrong. The ship's gravity pulsed in patterns. The cabin temperature rose 12 degrees, even though external conditions were negative 200 Celsius. Then the comms panel lit up. Text only, no sender. Turn off the light. That message wasn't transmitted, Vel said. The quiet man said quietly, it came from inside. Lena dimmed the cabin lights. A symbol appeared on the forward window, not projected, not digital, but burned into the frost itself. A perfect spiral of sharp lines and curves, a shape only seen once before, etched into the surface of the last ship that had encountered the mind that sleeps. He's here, Lena whispered. They found the structure drifting inside the skeletal remains of a collapsed asteroid, hollowed out, pulsing faintly. The hull was scarred not from weapons, but from within, like something had tried to break out and then regretted it. They entered in silence. Then Vel saw the message scratched into the wall in chalk. No weapons, no armor. You come here clean or not at all. They found him sitting at the center of a circular room lined with mirrors that reflected nothing. He was older, his face weathered, eyes hollowed out, not by time, but by knowledge. I told you not to come, Null 3 said. We heard your message, Lena said. It wasn't a message, it was a leak. Vel scanned the walls. This place isn't physical in the standard sense. Our instruments are showing memory echoes, not architecture. Because you're inside it now, Null 3 said. You crossed the threshold. You survived, the quiet man said. I adapted, said Null 3. There's a difference. Lena sat across from him. What did you find? He looked up and whispered, the truth behind Obsidian. He told them everything. How after the verge, something had fused to his perception, a shadow that whispered in concepts, not language. How he had followed it here. How instead of extracting it, it had begun unraveling him. Obsidian wasn't created to protect humans from the galaxy, he said. It was created to protect the galaxy from what humans became after the verge. Lena frowned. We're peacekeepers. He shook his head. Your containment. You think the unarmed approach is a tactic? It's not. It's a necessity. Why? Because if you let yourself fight, you'll remember what it felt like to think like the verge. And if you remember too clearly, Lena finished the sentence, it wakes up. A rumble shook the structure. The mirrors began to show something. Not reflections, possibilities, dead earth, burned skies, human fleets made of bone. You triggered this? Lena asked. He looked afraid now. No, you did. The moment you came looking. The quiet man stumbled. Something's pressing in my head. Don't speak its name, Null 3 warned. Not here. Lena pulled out the silver coin. Null 3's eyes widened. That's real. Yes. He leaned back. Then it's already inside you. They left him there. He wouldn't come. He said he couldn't. Vel wanted to force him, but Null 3 just smiled a cracked smile and said, I'm not behind. I'm ahead of you. They sealed the structure, placed a memory lock on the coordinates, and burned every trace into false signals and decoys. They didn't speak on the trip back. The quiet man didn't speak at all. In the vault of echoes, Lena stood before a blank wall, reviewing the transcript. The council would ask questions, they always did, but they wouldn't understand the real answer. Because the return of Null 3 didn't mean a recovery, it meant a countdown had begun. They called it the Resolution of Santeller, the largest non-human alliance assembled in 50 years. 19 species, 83 sovereign empires, 3 independent AI conclaves, all meeting on the floating city world of Tellervos. The goal? To impose sanctions and dissolve any covert human operations under the codename Obsidian. To revoke humanity's authority to invoke Article 9, the coalition claimed the humans had overstepped, that Obsidian wasn't diplomacy, it was psychological warfare. that humanity wasn't seeking peace. It was establishing psychic supremacy. The coalition moved quickly. A formal ban was announced. Task Force Obsidian was declared a rogue doctrine. And then the coalition made the biggest mistake in galactic history. They tried to erase Obsidian. Within hours, strike teams were dispatched. Archives were seized. Observation stations near black zones were shut down. Earth's own relay hub at Delphi Station was infiltrated, its memory banks wiped, its security staff replaced. The whispers didn't stop. They got louder. The first anomaly appeared on Prime, a trade hub far from any known Obsidian operations. Entire surveillance sectors went blind for 13 seconds. When they came back online, every display, public screens, personal devices, security panels, showed the same image. A single unblinking eye surrounded by black spirals, and beneath it, one line. Silence is not surrender. It is the holding of breath. The message lasted 8 seconds, long enough to embed itself into every major neural net in the system. Within hours, nobody could remember seeing it at all, not even those who recorded it. A second incident hit the Krell Arbitration Council's central archives, air-gapped, AI-protected, built inside an antimatter mined asteroid. They received a physical envelope, paper sealed with wax. No record of entry, no ship, no signal. Inside, a photograph of a human child smiling. On the back, written in ancient Krell script, "You voted to erase us, but we remember everything." The archive director collapsed 15 minutes later. His neural signature had been inverted, not damaged, reversed, like someone had played his identity backwards until it broke. By day 4, the coalition was in chaos. The messages didn't carry threats, they carried memories, but not memories anyone had actually lived. Visions of invasions that never happened, fleets made of bone, council chambers where every species bowed to a single unarmed human standing in silence. These were empathic projections, the kind that bypass logic and hit straight into the emotional centers of the brain. They weren't showing what would happen, they were showing what could have. And soon everyone asked the same question. Why do the humans have these memories? And worse, why do they feel like ours? In the vault chambers of Earth, Lena stood before a room of silent obsidian figures. "I warned them," she said, "but they wanted to touch the dark." Vel sat in the corner, scribbling erratically. They thought obsidian was a secret. They didn't realize it was a filter. "Filter for what?" asked a junior operative. Lena turned to the group. "For what waits behind human comprehension? When the Verge happened, humanity didn't defeat something. They absorbed it. Obsidian wasn't formed to control others. It was formed to contain humanity from becoming what it almost became. Something too aware, too silent, too close to whatever sleeps between time and perception." She paused. "That's why the humans send unarmed guards. Because the moment they fight like everyone else, they stop being like everyone else." The resolution of Santeller lasted exactly 8 days. On the 9th, the coalition lost contact with Starvault Archive 3, a data library floating near the edge of the Perseus Veil, guarded by 6 elite strike forces. The final recorded footage showed a human woman, unarmed, unescorted, walking down its central corridor. No record of how she entered, just her words in the final audio log. "This is not retaliation, this is remembrance, and memory always returns." Then the screen turned black. All personnel were recovered alive, but none of them could recall their names. The coalition voted to repeal the ban the next day. No statement, no apology, just a silent update to the charter. Obsidian was not mentioned again. But something had changed. For the first time in recorded history, the other species stopped trying to understand humanity and started to avoid it. The transmission wasn't meant for anyone. It didn't travel through comms or relays. It simply appeared everywhere, all at once. Screens cracked, hollows glitched. Time itself stuttered for a second. Then it spoke. This is not a warning. This is not a threat. This is an answer. No signature, no origin, just a final line burned into every interface.